Yeah, obviously that was a really good win for our team, especially the way it finished up in Tuscaloosa and not swinging the bats at all, and then getting down today like we did 6-0. I mean, very rarely does a team get 5 hits in a row, and they did. Just proud of our guys, man. They rallied and just kept going, and found a way to win against a team that can really hit. And we got our hands full again tomorrow.
It definitely was an impressive win for the Diamond Hawks against Texas Tech. Welcome into this week's PTN Extra. Courtney Mose alongside Mike Irwin here. And Mike, I have the pleasure of doing Ask Mike with you each and every week on Monday. Now, because we're the only ones here on this Wednesday, we get a continuation of that. Now, we had some people mad at us in that Ask Mike that we didn't talk enough baseball. I'm going to please them with this show right now. We are going to get into some baseball conversation. Now, the Razorbacks dropping their first series of the year to Alabama this past weekend. They had some real issues at the plate in those losses, Mike. But when they got down to Texas Tech last night, 7-0, I thought, no way are they going to come back. Here are those issues with hitting again. But look, they came back. They stormed back, got 6 runs in the 5th inning, tied the game up. Texas Tech took a 1-run lead on them, but they got the win in the end. A sac fly is what did it from Nolan Souza for the walk-off victory. Mike, what were your thoughts on that game with Texas Tech?
Well, probably for the first time this year, they were just down huge because this is a team that's relied on its pitching all season long. If they're down, they generally aren't down by a lot. They've been able to come back from being down 2 runs, 3 runs, or whatever. This was down 7 runs early, and it came at a time when they had didn't score a run all the way through Game 3 against Alabama, and they actually went 12 straight innings, I think it was, carrying over into the Texas Tech game. So it certainly looked bad. And there were a lot, I was looking at Facebook, and a lot of people went to bed last night thinking, oh, they're beat, I'm going to bed. And then they wake up this morning and they've got this nice surprise. But yeah, it was a challenge that they somehow, it's just baseball is weird. You think this is happening at the worst time because they're not only down big, but they're not hitting right now. And then they got a run, and then they got the 6 runs, and then they had to come back and get another run to tie it up, and then they had to win it with a walk-off. So hopefully that will carry over now, and maybe they hit the ball a little bit better, and then hopefully the pitching is a little bit better than it was, because the pitching wasn't what it needed to be really almost all weekend against. They got the 1 win, the Game 1 against Alabama, and Game 2 and Game 3, and then against Texas Tech, pitching very spotty.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because it was really the starting pitching in this Texas Tech game. And then Dave Van Horn, you got to give credit to the bullpen in that win because they came in and they were able to hold them off, because after that 2nd inning, they really fell off when it came to hits. So what did you see from the bullpen, I guess, in that win over Texas Tech?
Well, you're going with bullpen people really as starters, and that was the problem. Talking to a friend of mine that's a Texas Tech fan this morning about that, and he said, well, man, I couldn't believe it because they're talking about all these guys, these first 2 pitchers that have these good ERAs, first 3 really, and then all of a sudden they're just getting lit up, and we're like, what's going on here? And I'm thinking the same thing. But they did stabilize. I mean, Will McIntyre struggled against Alabama. He comes out in the first pitch, gives up a home run, but then he stabilized. And that's sort of what happened toward the end. They got enough runs to tie it up, then take the lead, but the pitching had to be good too there at the end, and they got what they needed.
Yeah, I know. Gage Wood is a guy that's been kind of up and down over the season.
Yeah, he pitched well.
He pitched well. I mean, it looked like the composure was there, right?
Yeah, and I have to point this out.
Okay, let's hear it.
You and I did this kind of oppo thing
we did.
Where we're making fun of a guy. So Jason Jones hadn't been playing, and so he comes up, and I'm going, what's DVH doing putting this bozo in here? He can't hit. And boom, right off the wall, lead off double. So we did that kind of stuff, and I said this to Gage Wood, come on, don't bring him in here, and then he pitches really well. So we kind of got stuck into that make fun of a guy mode because he'll actually do really well.
But we were winking at each other when we were making fun of them. We were
Right.
winking at each other because we were like, hey, if we keep this going,
We didn't want to jinx him by saying something nice.
we were a little superstitious in that game. Mike, looking ahead for Arkansas baseball, they're taking on Texas Tech right now in game 2. That's why we're not going to talk about that game. So if you're watching this later on a Wednesday night, that's why we're not mentioning game 2. So hopefully they get that win there. But how does this series help them going into the weekend, especially against a South Carolina team that's A-ranked and has a great offense?
Well, I mean, again, if they take game 2, then you got some momentum back, and maybe you're hitting and you've got pitching, because that's what they need. I mean, they just have relied too much all season long on pitching. You got to have hitting too. You can't have games where you're scoring 3 runs or 4 runs. They need SEC. Sometimes you need 5, 6, 7. So hopefully it'll help them going to South Carolina.
That would be really great, right? Again, like we said, we're not talking about this Texas Tech game 2 because the game is going right now. But you know who is going to talk about that game, Mike? Do you know? Alyssa Orange tomorrow. Alyssa Orange and Evan Kamiko. If you don't watch it, it's a great show. Batting cleanup. They talk every Thursday afternoon all about Arkansas baseball, even Arkansas softball. Sometimes they even throw in some Major League Baseball talk in there. They have a fun time. You can go watch that show right here on our YouTube page as well. Mike, what's coming up next on our show? We're going to talk something real fun, right?
Fun for me. I don't know about some people, but I like it.
Some people don't like it. I was reading the comments on your Twitter because Mike actually tweeted out something very interesting and controversial in the college football world. A super conference, a super division, super league, whatever you want to call it there. 70 teams, 7 divisions. It's a proposed plan, and it leaked yesterday. We're going to talk all about it on PTN Extra. That's coming up next. Welcome back to this week's PTN Extra. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin here. And Mike, I'm excited to talk with you about this because you, as soon as I walked in the office today, you said, I got something that we got to talk about on PTN Extra. Did you see this? And I had to go to your Twitter to see exactly what you were talking about. And it was a photo that was leaked out yesterday that showed a proposed college football super league with 70 teams divided into 7 conferences. So let me show you everybody what it looks like if you didn't see it. Here is that photo. We're going to pull it up for you right now. It was tweeted out by Daniel Libet, who writes for Sportico, and I immediately noticed one thing. There's the Southwest Conference and all the old teams in there too, and Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And it looks like in this proposed plan, Mike, it's all based off of geographic location. I know you've thought about the old Southwest Conference coming back. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me back this up, first of all, and talk about why this is being done. Because it's a proposal to solve problems right now where you need to deal with NIL and combination with the transfer portal. They got to do something or they're going to ruin college football. Fans are saying it all over the country. And so this proposal was first brought forth by the NCAA as a way of, hey, maybe this is how we do it. We create a super division of around 70 teams, somewhere in that nature, and each team guarantees a certain amount of money to each scholarship athlete, not just football or certain big sports, but everybody, because they're going to get sued over this if they don't solve the problem with the so-called Title IX sports. So under this proposal, a school like Arkansas might have to provide $13 to $15 million every year to go into a fund which creates a collective where everybody gets the same. And that, I still think you as an individual, if you're a quarterback, big time running back or whatever, you're probably able to hire yourself an agent and get separate NIL deals. But this makes sure that you don't have players on your team that get nothing or very little. They're going to get a decent amount of money, all of them. So that solves a problem. To do this, you have to create this proposed super division. And what caught my eye immediately was it said Southwest Conference, and then you look and it's all those Southwest Conference teams except Rice. Get them out of there.
Rice, no.
We don't want them.
Why?
And it adds Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And this is good because in the old Southwest Conference, the one complaint Razorback fans always had is Arkansas was the only team in the Southwest Conference, not from Texas, and they felt like it was they got the shaft a lot of times on officiating and different things. Well, now you're going to have Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in there with you to battle all those Texas teams when you have meetings and what's best for this team or that program or whatever. Now you're going to have people against it. I read some things already. Younger fans who only know Arkansas athletics through the Southeastern Conference, they don't like it because they've gotten used to these teams like Ole Miss and LSU or whatever. But here's the benefit to it, and you have to really think about this, because so many times fans totally take the athletes out of the equation, and they shouldn't do that. We've reached a point with these ridiculous movements of these conferences, the two teams taken out of the Pac-12, Pac-16, Pac-12, and put into the Big Ten, and now they're going to be having to go all over the place. These athletes have to get in planes and fly and then come back midweek and go back to class the next morning. This is a regional thing. And I know that you looked at where Florida will be. Yeah, and Florida essentially becomes what you're saying is an ACC team.
Well, that's exactly what they would become, because it's all the ACC teams. And I put up that graphic for people, but we'll put it up right again. But look, if you look at them, they're in the Southeast Conference.
They're calling it that.
They're calling it that. But they're in with teams like Clemson and Wake Forest and those Duke and those guys.
They're doing it because it puts you closer together. Now, that's going to be better for the athletes because it will eliminate a lot of this travel stuff, especially midweek travel. It's going to help students, and here's why. Anybody that's ever gone to college and been a sports fan, I know I did it, we piled in the cars on the weekend and went to games. We drove, 5 or 6 of us would go to games. The second highest number of students at the U of A outside of students from Arkansas are students from Texas.
Yeah.
You're going to have all these games in Texas. You're going to have all these students up here. Hey, I can go home this weekend, stay with my parents, and then get up Saturday and go to the game, come back, stay with them again, and then drive back the next day. It makes it, you don't have to drive all the way down, turn around, drive all the way back. So we're going to have all these games that students can go to. And some fans will be able to do it too. Those that can't still watch it on TV. So I just think it's going to be good all the way around. It'll take a year or two, but those old rivalries will come back, plus 2 new ones, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Yeah. And it hasn't happened yet. Something could mess it up, but I'm just hoping that it does. The first 15 years I covered Arkansas, they were in the Southwest Conference. I loved going down to those places. We usually drove because it was close enough, and it was just fun going to all those games and going into Texas and watching Arkansas go in there and beat all these teams.
Yeah, there's some schools in the Southwest or in the old Southwest Conference, like SMU and Texas Tech. I've never been to those schools. Yeah. I've always wanted to go to those schools.
SMU in the old days, I remember when they were in this thing called Odenby Stadium. It was horrible. It was like a high school field.
Oh, gosh.
Well, they got a new stadium. It's small, but it's nice. Yeah. And TCU's completely redone Amon Carter, and it's big time now. So all of these things are nice. Maybe I get to, I don't know if it happens soon enough. I'm still working, go back out to Lubbock, see a bunch of my friends. I was able to do that about 8-10 years ago and could be able to do it again. So I'm looking forward to it if it happens.
If it happens, because this is proposed, right? And you can go read the whole thing. It is on Sportico. They were the ones who reported this, put the photo out there like I gave them credit at the beginning of this segment. But you know what else that you mentioned that I like about this plan?
No Missouri.
No Missouri. I like that, Mike. And they get stuck. They don't even get to be in the Southeastern Conference on that proposed plan.
I guess they'll be back with more old Big 8 teams.
Yeah, like Midwest is what they call it, I think, on that proposed plan is the Midwest. And they're in with Indiana and Purdue and those guys over there. So I don't think it's a bad thing. You have a lot of the SEC still together, though, so I wonder if that will be...
Well, you'll have two. The South and the Southeastern, those are mostly the core of the current SEC teams.
Exactly. The South is what they're calling it on this plan, and that would be the core SEC teams. I know Florida fans already, and I know they're not going to like that proposed plan. They do not want to be in the same conference as some of these people.
What Florida fans think, they're going to have to go along with this.
I'm just letting you know. I mean, they love that rivalry with Georgia.
They can play them in a non-conference game. The world's largest drunk, isn't that what they call it?
No, the world's largest cocktail party, Mike. That's what they call it.
Which means they get drunk.
Kind of, yeah, I guess. Have some adult beverages, exactly. So I think there's a lot of good things about this plan. It definitely helps Arkansas, I think. in the long run.
If you're older like me, if you're one of these younger fans, they're not going to like it because they're more tied in with Ole Miss and LSU and teams like that.
Absolutely. I want to know what the fans think, though. So you had a lot of comments on your social media. You can put in the comments of this video right here. Do you like that proposed plan? Do you not like it? What would you change about it if you had a magic wand and wanted to fix it? You can let us know in the comments below. Maybe we'll read them next week on PTN Extra and take some fan comments on it. That sounds really good. That's going to do it for this week's show, though. We'll see you next Wednesday for more PTN Extra.